Hello Aries, and welcome to your July 2021 reading. Be sure to check out your sun, moon, and rising for a more well-rounded perspective. And if you're looking for a personalized, individualized reading, there are links in the description box below for you to be able to get one from me. All right, let's go ahead and begin. The first card that we are beginning with is Anchor, and this really is talking about making sure you really dig your roots down in what it is that you believe in. Set down your anchor, kind of stop sailing aimlessly. There's an overall sense that some of you are focusing on exploring with no real specific direction in mind, no real destination. Just you have an idea of a destination, or you're just, feeling the need to explore, to go out there and see what may happen. Let the wind carry you wherever may be. And you're being told that this is not the right approach right at this time. There's nothing wrong with having that perspective of going with the flow. There's nothing wrong with having that adventurous feeling of wanting to just set sail and allow the winds to carry you to whatever destination it does. There's nothing wrong with having that adventurous spirit, that adventurous nature. But right now, this approach to the things that you are facing is not the most stable, and therefore you need to dock your ship. You need to set down your anchor. You need to be a little bit more planned, a little bit more organized in your planning, a little bit more organized in your approach. So essentially, instead of having that sort of whatever comes, whatever happens, adventurous nature or spirit, you're being asked to sort of dial that down, tone it back a little bit, set down your anchor, take a moment, take a breath, focus a little bit, and just kind of organize a little bit more than you're used to doing. So whatever you usually do in your preparation and your planning as far as your life is concerned, that is the aspect you need to dial up a little bit. So dial back the come what may, dial that down, and dial up the organization and pre-planning aspect to just create a bit more stability. Whatever you are facing and the things that are going to be coming in the month of July, you will feel more equipped. You will feel better equipped in handling and dealing with the situations that is going to come your way in the month of July. And if you can create a bit more stability, if you can kind of wrap your head around it from a more solid perspective, then whatever happens sort of sentiment or feeling. So set down your anchor, not sail into adventure for the month. Notice the blessing is the next information or the next card that we have. So I'm getting an overall sense that you're going to be hitting some turbulent waters, kind of going with that theme of sailing and exploration. So I do feel like that this is continuing with that, and that you're going to hit some troubled waters, which is why you're also being asked to set down your anchor, because you don't want to be out in the midst of that. You want to be docked at a place that's comfortable, that's a place that's solid. And while you're there, while you're looking at perspective, while you're trying to get a sense of your next plan, what your next step may be, where your next travels are supposed to take you. During that time period, you're supposed to also look at what you have, sort of take stock of what you have in storage. And this is not just from a physical perspective, but from a mental and spiritual perspective as well. So every element of your life, you're supposed to kind of take stock at, look at what your reserves are, and really focus on how this is going to help you make it through the troubled waters or the experiences that's coming your way in throughout the month of July. So there's just an overall sense of experiencing a potential pushback in some regard in the month of July. And so you're just being forewarned to prepare yourself. It's not that you can't handle it, because you can. But there's definitely an overall sense that you will feel more equipped, better equipped, if you take your time, slow down, get a little bit better footing, and really take a good look at your reserves so that you know what you're working with as you enter and move through the month of July. We have, as far as where you're at, we have the 10 of Wands. And I feel that this, again, is reiterating that message, that information regarding experiencing some hard times, experiencing some tension. This really kind of lets me feel the sense of obligation or duty. These are things that you have to tend to. It's not something that you can ignore. It's not something that you can let go. It's not something that you can procrastinate. These are all things that are just something that has to be dealt with. It's kind of along the lines of the analogy that I was just given was that overall sense of how, you've had a long, hard day and it's time to cook supper and it's the last thing you want to do. All of a sudden, this one thing that's supposed to not really be that big of a deal, it's really not a lot of energy when you think of it in the grand scheme of things. But there are days where the concept of having to figure out what's for supper and to prep it before you eat it just sounds so tedious, but it still needs to be done, not just because you need to eat, but your body needs that nutrition. It needs that fuel. So it's a sort of an obligation to your body, to yourself to meet this. And this is the overall sense that I'm getting for the month of July. There's a lot of things that just needs to be tended to, whether you have the energy or not. It's something that you have to see. It's something that you have to finish. You have to complete. But there are going to be moments as you move through the month of July where this obligation, this necessity is going to feel a little bit more tedious, a little bit more burdensome than you prefer. And it makes it feel like a burden, essentially. So the month of July, you're going to be facing moments, and it's just things that you know that you have to face and you have to deal with and you have to accomplish. But that's why the whole setting down your anchor, looking at your reserves, it's all going to help you. A bit of pre-planning, going back to that analogy of cooking supper. Sometimes it helps when we have a meal plan on the beginning of the week so that, or at the very least, at some point in the time when we know the days are busy, we already know what meal we're going to be fixing that day so that some of the work is already done for us so that when we get to that point, it doesn't take as much of our energy. This is the sort of preparation and the counting of our reserves that I was speaking about. This is going to be your best approach for the month of July, especially when you are facing these moments where things feel a bit tedious and a little too obligatory. What you have available to you, we have the Ace of Wands, new beginnings. So this is all kind of preparing you to take a shift or a transition into something that's going to carry you further into the future. So there's some changes that are kind of happening. Work, I keep hearing work. So there's something about job shifts. So sometimes when let's say you get a promotion, there are things that you have to finish with the old position and things that you have to do during transition, and then things that has to be done when you begin the new position. That sort of sentiment is what I'm really tapping into for this. It doesn't necessarily have to be with job. If that applies, great. But for some of you, it's just with kind of overall life perspective as far as going through shifts where something old is coming to an end. You're going to experience a transition period before you experience the new setting, the new world, the new way of life, the new means that you are moving into. So transition really sticks out. So it's that transition period again, and which is why setting down anchor, taking note of your reserves is so important for this month of July, because you're really going to be experiencing that transition period for something new. And this is all work that's going to lead you to that. This is all work that's necessary that leads into that. So this is the energy for the month of July. Transition and the work that comes with the transition period. Just because you know something new is on the horizon, just because you know something new is available to you, doesn't mean that you get to stop what you're doing until that new thing just lands into your lap. There are a lot of times or a lot of moments in our lives that just as much, if not more, work is required during the transition period. So this is the month of July energy for you. Transition is huge. So this is what you're working towards, something new you're working towards. What you need to be aware of and don't get too, comfortable with is the Empress card. And I really feel that this is talking about don't get too comfortable in just knowing that this is going to happen. You don't want to get comfortable in the, just the expectation of it all. You need to do the work. If you think about in this particular image, and oftentimes when we see the Empress, it has to do with fertility. It has to do with conception. And during conception, yeah, there are a lot of times where there's a lot of the things that happen that you don't have to participate in, but there are still things that you have to do that nurtures that brings it into fruition. So you yourself aren't actually building the baby that is within the utero, but things that you are doing participates in the nurturing of and the building of the baby. So the food that you take in, the way that you nurture yourself, the way that you take care of yourself, and then in contrast to that, the way that you don't take care of yourself, all has an impact on the well-being of that which you are have conceived and that which you are building and will eventually birth. And then of course there is the preparation of the birth process, the preparation of the birth, and the preparation of bringing the new being home. And this is all part of what you have to be aware of, that there are still things that you are doing that influences the outcome during this transition period. So things that you are partaking in, things that you are doing, things that you are not doing, how you are nurturing or not nurturing this new entity that you are working in, bringing into fruition. You have to take that into account. Don't get so comfortable that you think that you don't have to participate in the well-being of this thing that you are bringing into fruition, because you do. Like I said, things that you do and things that you don't do are all part of the process in the month of July. And that's when we go back to that concept of burden, that concept of, there are things that might feel tedious and might feel burdensome, but you need to participate in them. You need to participate in actively being available and doing the work, no matter how tedious or how much of an obligation it feels, because it's important. It's important for the end result. And the end result is that new beginning that you're working towards. All right, Aries, that is all I have for you for the month of July. As I said before, if you're looking for a more individual personalized reading, there are links in the description box below. Be sure to check out your sun, moon, and rising for a more well-rounded reading for the month of July. And hopefully I will see you in a future video.